Did you know Pepsi once had the world's sixth largest military? Yes, you heard that right. Pepsi, the fizzy drink we all know and love, was once a global military giant. It all began in the middle of the 20th century when the world was divided into two superpowers, the USA and the Soviet Union. Amidst the tension and fear, a fizzy drink found its way into the heart of the Soviet Union, creating an absurd yet intriguing tale. One that involved not just cases of cola, but colossal naval fleets. It's a story that sounds more like a Hollywood script than a chapter from our real-life history. But it's 100% true, and we're about to take a deep dive into this fascinating story. So buckle up, folks, because we're about to sail into a tale of how a soft drink company sailed into military history. Yes, it's true, and we're about to unravel this fascinating story. Imagine a soft drink company becoming a global military power overnight. Yes, you heard it right, folks. This is the incredible tale of Pepsi's military might. It all started in the year 1959, when Pepsi charmed its way into the Soviet market. The Cold War was at its peak, and American products were a rare sight in the Soviet Union. But Pepsi, with its sweet, fizzy allure, managed to break the barriers. The soft drink company struck a rather unusual deal with the Soviets, and no, it wasn't about gallons of cola, it was about a naval fleet. You see, the Soviet Union had a peculiar problem. They didn't have the currency that the Western world recognized or accepted. So they decided to trade in what they had in plenty: military equipment. Pepsi, being a business-savvy corporation, agreed to this unconventional trade-off. And just like that, Pepsi acquired 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer. One moment Pepsi was just a soft drink company, and the next, they owned the sixth largest navy in the world. Overnight, Pepsi went from fizzing up your parties to commanding a fleet that could, theoretically, wage a war. We're talking about a soft drink company that suddenly found itself in command of a military arsenal that many nations could only dream of. The sheer absurdity of it is enough to make one's head spin faster than a Pepsi can in a soda geyser. But as they say, the world of business is full of surprises. And this, ladies and gentlemen, was one surprise that left the world, including the heads at Pepsi, in a state of fizzy bewilderment. The tale doesn't end here, though. There's more to this carbonated saga of power, politics, and pop culture, so stick around as we dive deeper into this effervescent episode of history. And just like that, Pepsi became a formidable military powerhouse. But how did a soda company end up with a military fleet, you might ask? Well, sit back, let's pop open a can of history and take a fizzy dive into the past. Back in the late 1950s, the Soviet Union had a bit of a problem. They had a thirst for the sweet, bubbly nectar that was Pepsi, but their currency, the ruble, wasn't accepted outside their own borders. So what's a superpower to do when they can't quench their craving? They improvise. The Soviet Union and Pepsi struck a rather unconventional deal. The Soviets agreed to give Pepsi a fleet of diesel submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, all in exchange for $3 billion worth of Pepsi products. Yes, you heard that right. Pepsi, the soda company, traded sugar water for warships. But wait, it gets better. The deal was actually sealed with vodka. The Soviets threw in 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, all for a little bit of that Pepsi magic. It was a deal that bubbled up from the depths of the Cold War and burst onto the world stage. You see, Pepsi wasn't just trading cola for a fleet. They were also gaining a monopoly in the Soviet market, becoming the first Western product to be manufactured and sold in the USSR. Pepsi's red, white, and blue logo became a common sight, dotting the Soviet landscape like bubbles in a glass of soda. The trade was so successful that Pepsi eventually had to dispose of the fleet because, well, they were a soda company, not a naval power. But for a brief moment in history, Pepsi was technically the sixth largest military power in the world. And that, my friends, is the effervescent tale of how a soda company bubbled up to naval prominence. A deal sealed with vodka, Pepsi became the proud owner of a naval fleet. So next time you crack open a Pepsi, remember, you're sipping on a bit of naval history. So, what exactly did Pepsi acquire? Well, hold on to your soda cans because this is where it gets really interesting. When we think of Pepsi, we imagine fizzy drinks, catchy jingles, and maybe a Super Bowl halftime show. But back in the late 20th century, Pepsi was juggling a whole different set of balls, a fleet of military-grade naval vessels. Now you might be wondering, how on earth did a soft drink company end up with a military fleet? Quite simple, really. It's all thanks to a peculiar trade deal with the Soviet Union, but we're not here to talk about trade deals. We're here to talk about what Pepsi got out of it, and boy did they get a lot. Imagine this. 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer. No, this isn't the lineup for an action-packed summer blockbuster. This was the real-life naval fleet that Pepsi had in its possession. Yeah, you heard that right. Pepsi, the carbonated beverage company, had its very own navy. You may think we're pulling your leg, but this is historical fact. Pepsi was in possession of the 6th largest military in the world at that time. We're not talking about a couple of dinghies here. These were full-on, war-ready naval vessels, and the scale of it all was truly astounding. This wasn't just a fleet, this was a fleet that could rival some nations. Imagine the sheer size of it. 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, all branded with the familiar Pepsi logo. It's a sight that would make any naval commander do a double take. And just to put things into perspective, this wasn't just a publicity stunt or a marketing gimmick. This was a fleet that could have potentially been put into active service. Thankfully, Pepsi decided to stick to what they do best, and left the naval warfare to the professionals. With 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer, Pepsi had a fleet that could rival some nations. And that, my friends, is how Pepsi sailed into military history, a tale as fizzy and unexpected as the drink itself. To understand the enormity of this deal, we need to take a step back. Picture this: the world is in the throes of the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union, two superpowers, are locked in a tense standoff. They're vying for global dominance, each with their own ideologies and agendas. In the midst of this political chess game, enter Pepsi, a soft drink company. A bit out of place, wouldn't you say? But that's where things get interesting. The Cold War wasn't just about nuclear arms races or space exploration. It was also a war of ideologies, a clash between capitalism and communism. And in this battle, even the simple act of selling a soft drink became a move on the global chessboard. Pepsi's venture into the Soviet Union is a testament to that fact. The Soviets, despite their stand against capitalism, had a sweet tooth for American consumer goods, including Pepsi. It was a symbol of America, a taste of the other side. Pepsi's entry into the Soviet Union wasn't just about quenching thirst. It was about making a statement, a symbol of cultural exchange in a time of political tension. Now let's add another layer to this. The Soviet economy wasn't structured for international trade, which made the whole deal even more bizarre. They couldn't just pay Pepsi in cash. Instead, they traded with what they had in excess: naval fleets. And just like that, Pepsi became the world's 6th largest military power, albeit briefly. This unlikely story is a reminder of the complexities of the Cold War era. It was a time of heightened tension, yes, but also a time of strange alliances and even stranger deals. It was a time when a soft drink company could end up with a naval fleet, a time when Pepsi became a player on the world stage, not just as a soda maker, but as a military giant. In the midst of the Cold War, Pepsi had made a splash like no other. The world watched in disbelief and amusement. Picture this: a soda company, known for its bubbly, sugary drink, now commanding a naval fleet that could rival some countries. It's as if one day McDonald's decided to start manufacturing aircraft, or Starbucks started dabbling in space exploration. It's laughably absurd, isn't it? Now imagine the boardroom meetings at Pepsi headquarters. Executives sitting around a glossy table, sipping on their cans of Pepsi, discussing not just sales and marketing strategies, but also the state of their military ships. There must have been some serious eyebrow-raising moments in there. And let's not forget about the soda-loving Soviet citizens. They were probably expecting a nice cold can of Pepsi, not a naval fleet. The look on their faces when they realized their favorite drink was now also a military powerhouse must have been priceless. On the flip side, imagine being a naval officer in the Soviet Union. One day you're handling serious military operations, the next, you're reporting to a soda company. The transition from comrade to cola captain must have been quite a switch. As for the rest of the world, they were probably scratching their heads, trying to figure out how a soda company known for its catchy jingles and celebrity endorsements was now a major player on the military stage. It was like watching a comedy sketch play out in real life. But amidst the chuckles and guffaws, there was an underlying reality. This was not just a humorous anecdote for trivia nights. This was an actual event in our global history. A unique intersection of business and politics, of capitalism and communism, of soda and submarines. So, the next time you crack open a can of Pepsi, remember, you're not just sipping on a popular soft drink. You're tasting a tiny, fizzy part of history. A history where, for a fleeting moment, Pepsi was not just quenching thirst but also making waves in the naval world. But what happened to Pepsi's fleet, you might ask? Well, sit tight. because the aftermath of this fizzy endeavor is just as intriguing as the story itself. When the deal was inked, Pepsi became the proud owner of a fleet of 17 submarines, a cruiser, a frigate, and a destroyer. Now that's a lot of naval firepower for a soda company. But Pepsi didn't exactly turn into a global naval superpower overnight. In fact, they were in a bit of a pickle. You see, managing a military fleet wasn't exactly in Pepsi's wheelhouse. They were better at making soda pop than navigating international maritime laws. So they did what any sensible company in their position would do. They sold off their fleet. Yes, you heard it right. They sold off their naval fleet piece by piece to scrap dealers around the world. Imagine the water cooler conversations at Pepsi headquarters around that time. "Hey Bob, how's the cola sales going?" "Not bad, Jim. By the way, sold a submarine today." But let's take a moment to imagine a world where Pepsi decided to keep their fleet. Imagine a universe where Pepsi became a global naval power, patrolling the world's oceans with their soda can-adorned submarines. Maybe they'd have launched a Pepsi Navy, complete with their own catchy jingle and Navy uniforms splashed with the Pepsi logo. Perhaps soda disputes would have been settled on the high seas, with Pepsi and Coca-Cola engaging in epic naval battles. Of course, this is all in jest. In reality, Pepsi quickly sold their fleet to scrap dealers, effectively ending their short-lived stint as a naval power. But what a wild ride it was. This tale of soda and submarines, of pop and power, serves as a unique snapshot of a peculiar time in history. A time when a soda company briefly owned the sixth largest military fleet in the world. While the fleet was eventually sold, the story of Pepsi's military might live on. Now isn't that a pop of history to remember? Pepsi's naval saga is more than just a historical oddity. It's a testament to the lengths a company will go to break into a new market, even if it means becoming a temporary naval superpower. This unlikely tale of cola and Cold War politics is a fascinating footnote in the annals of history. A story that stands as a testament to the power of soft drinks and hard bargaining. In a world divided by ideology, it was the allure of a fizzy, sugary drink that bridged the gap, albeit briefly, between the East and the West. But let's not forget the sheer absurdity of the situation. A multinational corporation, known for its sweet beverage, was suddenly in possession of a fleet of submarines, warships, and oil tankers. It's almost as if one day, a popular fast food chain woke up to find they owned a space station. It's ludicrous, it's laughable, and yet it happened. The aftermath of Pepsi's naval acquisition was less dramatic though. The company didn't go on to conquer the seven seas or launch a cola coup. Instead, they sold the fleet to a Swedish company for scrap recycling. A rather mundane end to an extraordinary tale, wouldn't you agree? But it wasn't all for naught. Pepsi did manage to penetrate the Iron Curtain, paving the way for other Western companies. It showed the world that even in the throes of the Cold War, commerce could find a way. And not just any commerce, but the selling of a quintessentially American product, Pepsi-Cola. So, the next time you pop open a can of Pepsi, remember the incredible journey it took to reach global markets. Remember the time when a cola company became a naval superpower, even if it was just for a fleeting moment. And that's the day Pepsi sailed into military history. Well, wasn't that a fizzy tale? If you're thirsty for more incredible historical oddities, remember to hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more fizzing tales from history. Until then, keep sipping.